to another edition, the second edition of Double D Fantasy Football Podcast, here with myself, Davis Holland, my dad, Dave Holland. We're so grateful for all those that tuned in for our Week 1 edition, and we're ready to be back again now. We're really getting excited for that Week 1 of the regular season coming around the corner. Make sure that you are leaving comments, ask questions. If you have things going on with your teams, need a little advice, we'll be glad to add that into the show, and we look forward to hearing from you guys and seeing what your situations are, because we're going to lay out what we got going on, and my goodness, we've got some things going on. We're going to start with our draft reflection today. Dad, how you feeling? We got our 3 drafts out of the way, and I'm feeling pretty strong.
Absolutely. The last draft that we participated in was last night, and it's really fun doing the drafts. It's actually one of my funnest things, I think, in the entire process. It's just so exciting to kind of see how the draft plays out and see what guys you end up with. I mean, if you're like Davis and I, we plan and plan and plan.
Oh yeah.
And you just never know if those plans are going to come to fruition when the draft starts to lay out. And there's always surprises, sure. And there were in ours as well.
Oh yeah, we had the two very different formats of of drafts to go into. The double flex of the 2 quarterback league, the super flex league, and then a very, very basic league. And I think all of our drafts went well, but we definitely had to be on our feet and pivot there quite a bit, and just figuring out our draft position for one of our leagues, and that came down to the wire. But yeah, stayed on our toes, and I think our things worked out.
Oh yeah, I think so too. We had some guys in mind, and we talked about that in the first show, that you should have a few guys in mind that you definitely want to target. But then you just have to let the draft flow after that. And as it worked out, we ended up getting a lot of the players that we've talked about and that were high on. We didn't go overboard on anyone. Well, too many players. We drafted, I think, in 3 drafts, we had like 5 or 6 guys that we took twice. But we did try to spread it out as well, try to spread the wealth. But as far as hopefully how your draft went, and I think we accomplished this in all of our drafts, hopefully you're strong at running back. It's, to me, the position that I worry about the most. It's the one that we've struggled with through the years to keep 2 solid running backs, or 3, depending on how many you need, in play because of injuries and everything else that affects the running backs. So I felt really good. Last night we ended up with 4 quality running backs, so I was very happy about that.
It was just weird how it all played out too. I mean, there's not a cliff per se with their ADPs and how they fell, but there were definitely some zones where we at least were trying to avoid. It was nice to see some of those late rounders, and Pacheco, for instance, was a good one we were able to fall back to get some reinforcement. I think he's going to have a good position and a good situation for him rolling into this next season, barring, of course, with any of them, that he stays healthy.
Oh, I absolutely agree. There are definitely some areas where you worry a little bit. You get through those top guys, and then what do you do after that? And I think that area where Ken Walker and Henderson and Harvey and those guys were going, that's that first little cliff. It's like, okay, which of these guys are going to actually perform this year? Because there's question marks surrounding all those guys. We ended up going pretty strong with Ken Walker. Davis wasn't quite as high as I am on him. I just think the new system with Clint Kubiak is going to benefit him, I hope, but he's very injury prone. But we backed him up both times by getting Zach Charbonnet. So that hopefully, if you got Ken Walker, you did that as well. And you mentioned Isaiah Pacheco. We're real high on him this year. When we talk about our start-sit recommendations later in the show, he's one that we've got two shares of him on our 3 teams, and I am really hoping he gets back into the form that he was last year before he got injured.
He's an easy guy to root for too. I think he really seems to work hard for his position there, and runs like it too. I love the analogies of him, when he's running and being angry at the ground or running with jeans on. Those are 2 of my favorite lines from him. But he's a great player. He's a lot of fun to watch, and I really hope he comes back into form. The running back position was definitely a good funky situation to keep us on our toes for sure. It was interesting to get Ginty. I was excited about him having, we only have him in the 1 league, but it's fun to watch these top rookies and see what they end up doing. And if anything, too, if he doesn't come completely out of a shell as far as his performances this year, we'll at least have good data for his second year next year.
Yeah, we went extremes with our RB1 this year. We're high on Derrick Henry. When is he gonna? The age is gonna catch up with him.
Yeah.
But I don't see it happening. I hope it doesn't happen this year because we drafted him in the first round in 2 of our drafts. He's just a great guy. He's a hard worker, and he's so much fun to root for. But then on our other team, we went the opposite route. We picked the rookie. And that should be exciting to see how he does this year. And they're both guys I think I can root for this year, and that's a big part of how we plan our drafts as well, besides talent.
Absolutely, for sure. And I do like how our quarterback situation panned out with the Superflex. For those who are doing Superflex leagues, or who maybe if you aren't doing one, they're a lot of fun. A good way to switch it up from the basic single quarterback leagues and just the basic positional rotations, and get your drafts looking vastly different from a lot of these mocks that you might be running into. And as I was saying, I really like how it worked out. We had that first pick for that league as winning champions last year. But, it went with Lamar there. And then we waited. It worked out, I think, the timing of it and packing up all those other positions.
Yeah, that's the neatest part about that draft is the quarterbacks go super early because everybody needs at least 2. So you don't really know when people are going to go for it. And the wildest part was the guy that picked second, Jalen Hurts, made it all the way back to him. We're sitting there going, is he going to make it back to us? And we're going to end up with Lamar and possibly Hurts. But then you're in the whole quagmire right there of, well, if you take another top quarterback at that point, you're missing out on the top running backs and the top receivers. And I think that was where we picked up Genty and we picked up Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it worked out for us, I think. Marvin Harris Jr. will be an interesting one to watch as we had to get our receivers in at that point in the draft. But cool prospect. I like the idea of being able to watch somebody new in my case too. So it's going to be a fun league. I'm really excited for that one. And again, reigning champs in that one, we got to make sure we're putting up and.
We're going to win it again. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. was not one that we had talked about at all. And then we got to, it was pretty late. He dropped quite a bit. And that's another thing about drafts that hopefully you guys did as well and think about in the future is see where the value is. I think we got R.J. Harvey pretty late in one of our drafts. He dropped. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. dropped. And we needed our third wide receiver, and we hadn't talked about him at all. And we're definitely kind of rolling the dice. He's a heck of a talent, and
very talented.
Like you mentioned, it'll be fun to kind of root for somebody new.
Yeah, and then so here's the guy of the evening for us, I think, if you're on board with this. But a good old Drake May, finding his way onto our rosters, and he's been the talk of the town for a lot of fantasy football and analysts and whatnot, and we're all too aware of that. But he seems the situation's interesting. He's got a lot of going changes with his offensive line and weapons that are going to be available to him this year. It's going to be really fun to see what he does. We got to share with him in this 2-quarterback league as a second quarterback too. I mean, it's a bit of a risk, so to speak, not to get any of those middle range guys that might be a little higher up on the ADP list than him, but it's a fun risk, and I think it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. I'm definitely rooting for him this year.
Yeah, and he's a running quarterback, and I saw a stat about him recently where he was one of the as far as like 30 plus yards per game. He had the second most games last year. We had over 30 yards in a game over the last 8 games, which is when he became the permanent quarterback. And I think it was a new rookie record. I think he beat Justin Herbert's record. So if he's running like that and you've got him on your team, man, plug and play him. He's
bonus points.
He should be a point monster. And like you mentioned, we waited on him as our second quarterback in 2-quarterback league and loaded up on all the other positions. And he fell to us. And we grabbed him as a backup in one of our other leagues too. So feel good about Drake May if you got him on your team.
For sure.
If you waited on quarterback.
So we're rolling into week 1 of the regular season too, and they're not holding back on some good matchups here. Who do you like looking at as far as this week 1 and the game's shaking out? Yeah,
they're definitely starting us off with a bang. I mean, I'm just so excited. We've got Thursday is the first game, and I've got to talk about that one as if you listen to our first show, Davis mentioned I'm an Eagles fan. I've been an Eagles fan my entire life, and so I'm happy we're defending champs. Well, defending champs. We're coming back to win another championship this year, and they play the Cowboys, that's our main rival. We hate the Cowboys. If you're a Cowboy fan, I'm sorry, but it probably works both ways. So they square off Thursday night. So just a few ideas on that game. I think the Eagles, hopefully they don't have the hangover for winning the Super Bowl. That's going to be the big question mark with them. A lot of teams win it all. They come back and they aren't the same team. The Cowboys, on the other hand, I don't know what to expect from them. They do. I mean, getting rid of Micah Parsons, having no running back really to speak of. We'll see how that pans out. It's going to be really interesting. If you bought shares of the Cowboys receiving core, get them out there, get Pickens out there, get Jay Ferguson out there, because that's going to be their offense, and they're going to have to score points. We didn't get much in the way of Cowboys on our team. But we have the kicker. We have Brandon Aubrey. That's it. So he's kicking a lot of field goals.
Love the soccer backgrounds.
And then the Eagles, we'll just have to see. I kind of think that they're going to go more of a passing team this year. They were super run heavy last year. We shied away from Barkley simply because we didn't have a really early pick in any of our drafts. He was usually gone. But either way, I'll be surprised if they feed him the ball as much as they did last year. We're firing up Devonta Smith this week. We've got Jalen Hurts on one of our teams as well. So looking for big games out of both of those guys this week. Should be an exciting game, but it's the first game of the year. And like any sport, when they play those first games, they can be sloppy sometimes. So we'll see what happens.
And that Super Bowl hangover is definitely no joke from those who have spoke from experience. The Cowboys have a lot to show up for. I mean, after that Parsons trade, excuse me, that's just a big one. I mean, a lot of Cowboy fans from my personal circle are definitely, I think this happens quite often, but certainly hating and not enjoying the ride. So hopefully week one will be a good start for them to get some momentum back on their side. We'll see how that goes. Are there any other games you're liking?
Well, there's a lot of games. We're not going to do them all. When we get into the regular season, we'll do a little rundown of most of the games and kind of what our impressions are, and talk about guys that you guys should be zeroing in on, especially deciding whether to play them or not, and whether it's a good matchup. But the other one we have to probably spend a little bit of time is the marquee matchup, and that would be the Ravens and the Bills play this week. Potentially the two best teams.
Exciting, absolutely exciting. Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on Sunday. It's the Sunday night game.
Yeah, those two quarterbacks. I mean, that was the big question in our super flex league between Lamar and Josh Allen. They've just come to their own as far as that mobility in that quarterback position. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how both teams utilize that this year. And I think the general vibe is that it's becoming more of a common thing. But it'd be interesting to see. I think Lamar's got his arm going a lot last year too. So hopefully it doesn't detract too much from his running as we have shares invested to him.
Yeah, I see both these quarterbacks continuing the running ways. I think the biggest question mark for both of these teams is the Bills. Who's the passing game? Who are they going to throw the ball to?
They've got Cole Kmet or Keon Coleman, excuse me, and Shakir.
They've got a couple receivers, and we actually drafted at the end of our draft. We took Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. We love Shakir. I don't know how healthy he is. That'll be something to monitor. But if you're in one of those leagues where those are guys that you're deciding to play or not, it doesn't hurt to roll them out there because it's a high scoring offense. Keon Coleman's going to be one of the most interesting receivers in the league this year, in my view.
We're certainly hoping he carves himself a significant role.
Yep, he's definitely he's super talented. They said he's just had a hard time catching up with the speed of play and the level of play in the NFL, but the talent's there. And if he could turn into Josh Allen's number one guy in his end zone target, for those of you that drafted him, he could be. Yeah, we're not putting either one of those guys out there this week. We have them on some of our teams. I'm not recommending a start on either one of them. But
the luxury to not need to.
Yeah, if they're on your waiver wire or something like that, I would
Oh,
grab
yeah.
either one of those guys because it's just a high powered offense, man. You want a piece of it, and it's just a big question mark right now of who it's going to be.
And James Cook can't do everything. You know, they've got to do something. I mean, Shakir in the slot was really consistent last year. We had him on at least one team, and
Yeah,
just caught so many balls.
yeah,
Short gains though, and nothing too crazy over the top. And that's again that Keon Coleman's role could carve out beautifully. And I think having that added level of dynamic play to Josh Allen himself will just be better in real football terms. So hopefully they
yeah.
turn it on for everybody's sake. I think everybody would benefit except for those they play maybe. And then the run game in Baltimore. I mean, we love our King Henry, and that age cliff though looming on, I think everybody's mind in that regard. It's going to be really interesting to see just how they've established his role and whether or not they're going to roll with him as much as they have been. And I certainly hope for our sake that they do, but he definitely needs to stay healthy. So fingers crossed there.
Well, they limit his touches. You know,
Yeah.
he doesn't play every down. The thing is, he's just productive every time they hand him the ball,
Right.
And you know that guy was just a beast all season. You don't hear anything about him and involved in anything outside of football, and that's because he's very focused. And so physically, I think he'll be fine this year. They just
They've got a
manage him. They manage him really well.
Yeah, they do still have a few of their backs too. Like Keaton Mitchell, I want to see more from him. His potential popping off last year and the few times that he did was really exciting,
Right.
and would be a really good balance, of course, to the ground and pound of Henry's style of play.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's go through the positions. I mean, who we like in
Okay.
as far as the let's start with I think quarterback's an easy one. Who are we liking on the quarterback start list for you versus our sits this week?
Well, we're not gonna be one of those shows that gives the obvious start sits. It's everybody knows who the main guys are, and so what we'll do is we'll just try to look at different players that are kind of borderline or fringe players, and throw out each week who we think might step up.
And our fringe QBs, I mean, at least the ones, very obviously.
Yeah,
Game of the hour.
yeah. I've talked about Dak a lot, and I see Dak slinging it quite a bit. The Eagles have a good defense, though, so that one's going to be really, really interesting to me. We talked about Drake May already. I would definitely put him out. We're going to put him out there, and Davis is going to have his own say on this too, because this is one we've gone back and forth about. Is Trevor Lawrence? I have high hopes for him. He's such a talent. He was such a good college player, and now he's got two really dynamic receivers and a good tight end. So maybe this is the year he breaks out.
I like Herbert in Kansas City. I think that's going to be a good little game for him to get back on track and find that
Right.
confident stride that he needed last year. Had a lot of injuries, and we've seen his potential. And I think the coaching staff in general and offense just believes in him, and that's going to be a high-power game too. Hopefully, the Kansas City Chargers game. I always love those matchups.
Oh, if the Chargers cut Justin Herbert loose, he could be a league winner for somebody this year. He's, to me, one of the most talented physical quarterbacks in the league. One of the best throwers. I'm really
People
surprised.
forget he was injured all year last year and played through it. I
Yeah.
mean, he did that I think in the year before. Had a couple of those situations, and he's just not one to sit out. He's always out there, and that for better or for worse. You know what I mean? He can have a small injury linger throughout the year because he plays through it.
Yep.
Anybody else on these fringe lists?
Receiver is kind of the one I want to kind of talk about the most
Yeah, a
because
lot of question
as
marks.
I look at our lineups, that's where I'm kind of struggling because there's so many guys. I love that part of the draft where we hit that group of receivers where there are all these really talented guys that are kind of lumped together and trying to pick and choose which ones are going to emerge as the year goes on. I basically got just a few written down here. I like all of them, and I'm probably going to start most of them this week. Some of them may not make it just because I don't have enough spots, but there's two rookies I think that everybody hopefully got a piece of, and that's Tet McMillan and Agbuka from Tampa Bay. Those guys are going to have solid roles, and they're both in my different teams, but they're in my starting lineup. Abuka is everything I've read is that he is pro ready. Godwin, there's no telling when he's going to get back, but they like to throw the ball, and Carolina needs somebody. They traded away Adam Thielen, so Tet's going to get his chance. So those are two rookies that I have high hopes for, and I would recommend. Two older receivers, Calvin Ridley and Cortland Sutton. They're just both solid guys. They're in situations where they're the number
Very
one
good
guy.
situation.
And Sutton's, he's on. Denver's going to be good this year. They're an offense. We got a big piece of their offense, but definitely going to ride with Sutton this week. Ridley, we've kind of got him on the fringe on one of our teams. I don't know if we'll play him or not. I kind of like that. He's got a tough matchup this week. He plays. They play Denver, and their defense is really good, and their secondary is good. So I don't know if
And
this
the
is Calvin's week.
Titans offense is going to be a fun observation through the year. We'll see what happens.
Right. Then the last one is two second-year guys, Ricky Pearsall and Rome Odunze, who both underperformed for different reasons, but super talented, and looks like Ricky Pearsall's got that number one slot. I don't know if I put him as a fringe player, but he could blow up and turn out to be a great player this year and starting this week. And then Odunze, same way. They're both guys that I would, if you have them and you're thinking about putting them in, I think you could do a lot worse than Ricky Pearsall and Rome Odunze.
Yeah, and the guy I'll throw in, and you have him on your list too, I'm sure, but Deebo Samuel's worth an eye this year. Low ADP, good situation, and hopefully he's gotten back into shape to perform at the level that he's able to. But just an elite receiver that fell dramatically. When I think his situation, arguably, I mean, maybe not got super better, so to speak, but definitely didn't get worse, I think. And McLaurin being there is they're just such different players. I can't imagine that there's not a distinct role that he could carve out.
And there's been whispers that they're going to hand Debo the ball a little bit too. So
It'd be silly not to.
that would add to his value so much if they stuck him in the backfield and gave him 5 or so carries every game, because you just got to get the ball in that guy's hands. And my guess with Debo is he got himself in shape. He's ready to go. Last year, he disappointed himself. He's a real competitive guy. And Washington brought him in for a reason. And they score a lot of points. So I agree. He's not in my starting lineup this week, but I would love for him to be in my starting lineup moving forward.
Sure.
But I got to see it first, Davis.
Yeah, I understand that. How about running backs? We got a few definitely
Yeah,
some backfield with a lot of things to shake out.
We've talked about a couple of these already, but the ones I really want to focus on, there's two rookies, R.J. Harvey and then Travion Henderson for New England. We did not take any Travion this year. I'm not really sure. He was falling in that area where I was worried because there was some more established guys. Do I think he's going to take over that backfield? Yes. I don't think Ramondre Stevenson's that great. Do I think it's going to happen overnight? Not really. I think they're going to use him as a third down. He likes to catch the ball, but he is just so dynamic. So he would probably be a borderline person to start. If you got to put him in as your RB2, you don't have any choice. If he's your RB3, I wouldn't be afraid to put him out there. And the same with R.J. Harvey. I think the same thing's going to happen with him and Dobbins. It's going to be really interesting to see how that pans out. But I'll make this call right now. I think by midseason, R.J. Harvey is not only going to be Denver's lead back, bell cow type, but he could be a league winner this year. And then we already talked about Isaiah Pacheco, man. I think we have him in at least one starting lineup, maybe two. He's Kansas City's running back, guys. And if he gets back to his form, like Davis said, of running through brick walls, and I've seen some highlights of him in the preseason, and that's what he was doing. Talk about a league winner right there. I would love to see him. He's still young, too. That's the thing about Pacheco.
He is. I think people get lost in that because we're seeing everything about the Chiefs for the past few years, so he got a lot of screen time. But and then just one more backfield I'm going to just throw in, which I know a lot of people are talking about, and it could be a very easy committee and complete bust for fantasy purposes. But going back to Debo's situation and the Redskins, Washington situation, Just you got a bunch of people. I mean, Chris Rodriguez versus Bill and that whole thing. And then you of course got Eckler
Austin
still
Eckler.
on the roster. Yeah, I mean it's one I keep going back and forth where I end up I'm like, oh, it's this guy or it's this guy, Bill Rodriguez. I can't. It might be one of those best to just stay away from. And I know we've got shares in Bill for one of the leagues, but I feel more and more word coming out of the beat reporters seems to speak to it just being more of a committee situation, especially too, as you said, Debo getting touches as well.
Right. Well, we grabbed Bill in our very first draft, and might have been one of our last picks for sure. It was really, really late, and it's like, what the heck? But our other two drafts, which were more recent, he went much higher. One of them, he went, golly damn, I'm thinking fifth or sixth round. He may pan out. I don't really know that much about him. Nobody knows that much about him at this point, but that's a major risk. So the one team we have him on, are running. We don't have a lot of depth at running back, and so we're just got our fingers crossed. And if not, we'll pick up somebody on the waiver wire and see what happens.
That sounds good to me. I think we can kind of close it off with the positions with this big one because it was a frustration or a wild thing. Unless there was somebody else that you wanted to talk about positionally, but I figured.
Just the last thing I do want to mention is if you're streaming defenses.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was about to bring up. Go ahead.
It was? Okay.
Yeah. The fact nobody in any of our drafts did that. They were getting them like early rounds and whatnot. Why is this still such a mystery? I mean, it's not a huge science to figure out whose matchup is better.
No. I went through over the last 2 years and calculated during the year how many times we won the defensive matchup, and it was like 75% of the time. It might have been higher than that, and that's streaming. Every once in a while, you can play against somebody and their defense does great, but we won the vast majority, 75 to 85% of the time. We won the defensive head-to-head, and it was simply because we would pick up whatever team was playing one of the worst teams. You don't have to get the absolute worst, but just pick a good matchup against a team that's not going to score a lot of points. Look at the rules and in your league and see how they're awarding points. But the team we picked up in all of our leagues, and we got them with our last pick every single time, and I kept waiting for somebody else to grab them. Like, we'll see if anybody else is really thinking about streaming. Zero. And we play in a variety of leagues with a variety of different people of different levels, and so you'd think somebody would have thought about it. Nobody did, so we ended up with the Arizona Cardinals.
And why the Arizona Cardinals, Dad?
Arizona is playing. They're playing the Saints this week, so the two teams to target all year would be the Saints, and I think the Browns will be the other one, and there'll be a couple more before it's over.
Oh yeah.
But the Cardinals, the other thing is they play Carolina next week, so you could actually keep them for a couple weeks, and then pick up somebody else. But seems like such a simple thing.
It's a big mystery. Everybody's dreaming, nobody's streaming.
And it's an edge too. You're getting an edge at one of the positions every week. So
added flexibility, and a lot of times too, leagues that again, like you said, keep an eye on the scoring because you can go into negative points with a bad defense, with just a bad matchup. Actually, a really good defense, and they could be doing really well, but get scored on a ton by whomever, and they got 60 points put up on them and still somehow won the game. But you're still losing your matchup because you lost however many points.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things. All right, Dad, I think we're about set for episode 2, unless you had some closing remarks you wanted to get in.
No, just kind of going back to what you said at the beginning, is really appreciate people listening, and your comments will help us because it'll give us ideas of things that you're thinking about, things that you want to know about. Once again, the purpose of this show it's twofold. The first thing is that we're going to model what it's like to kind of do a team together with somebody else. And that makes the drafts a lot like we just did the drafts. And the drafts are just a blast because it's just so much fun to go through that with somebody else and discuss it real time and predict what's going to happen. And it makes it easier, it seems like, to have somebody to bounce it off of. And we do it all year. And the other thing is your comments will also give us ideas of things that you want us to talk about. I do a ton of research. Davis does a ton of research, and we want to pass that on to you guys. It's just to the point where we want to share the wealth with everybody and make fantasy football fun. And the two things that make it fun for us is doing it together, the camaraderie, the teamwork, and then winning as well. Winning is always fun.
Yep, that sounds great. That sounds great. And yes, again, those comments are super important, especially if you're really specific about certain situations. And giving us more time is better, of course, to get some research behind it. If you drop those comments early, it definitely helps us out. And yeah, this is episode 2 of Double D Fantasy Football. I'm Davis Holland. He's Dave Holland, and I'm signing off for the week. Make sure you guys hit the waivers next week. Have good luck this weekend.